Hello, my name is Garvin, and today we're going to be talking about a big debate that has been waged since man started relying on agriculture instead of the wild for food. That question is, do we need to hunt? Is it ethical and good for the environment for us to hunt? Now, you may see this topic as being very irrelevant to you because of the type of people who typically go to an agricultural college, but it is still important that you become more aware of the benefits that are reaped by the environment by hunting. It is possible that some people go their entire lives without hunting or eating wild game, but does that mean that those who do are wrong to do so? We all need a well-balanced ecosystem to survive, even if we do not think we are in an area that needs maintaining. I've researched many reputable sources and have seen this topic argued from both sides, both hunters and anti-hunters. I want to present you with the facts so that you can make your own decision on where you stand on this controversial issue. Today, I would like to give you a better idea of the sins of our past and how we are trying to make it better and right our wrongs of the past by using the very medium we used to destroy it. Let's start from the beginning. In the past, we have hurt the earth with our hunting. Our first example of this would be the majestic Appalachian elk, otherwise known as the wapiti. They once roamed from the Atlantic coast to the banks of the Mississippi River, from Georgia to Maine. They were huge, standing 5 feet at the shoulder, weighing up to 1,000 pounds, with racks 6 feet long. The eastern elk was a great resource for the Native Americans were grateful for and would tap into for a variety of uses. Its meat was rich, its hide was made into clothing, its bones and antlers were made into weapons and tools, and its skull was used in religious ceremonies. When the white settlers arrived, the eastern elk was everywhere, and the English saw them as a money-making opportunity. Back in Europe, sportsmen and nobles enjoyed the hunting for European stags and having them mounted on their wall, just like a lot of people do today with white-tailed deer. Some of them took one look at the huge rack of the eastern elk and decided they just had to have one on their mantle, thus sealing the fate of the wapiti. So people started hunting them more and more. Sadly, the eastern elk was not as flighty as its smaller cousin, the white-tailed deer. They were stubborn. They didn't care if their feeding grounds were right next to a settlement. They just kept grazing and browsing. This fact made them easy prey. In many states, elk populations were gone before the end of the 1700s. By 1850, it was believed that the eastern elk was no more, and in 1877, the last known wild eastern elk was killed in the Pennsylvania mountains, thus ending the wapiti. Another example that we'll be talking about is the beautiful American bison, the king of the American heartland. The American bison was big. It was impressive to look at. It had a big, shaggy coat, and it was everywhere. It seemed that there would always be bison, just because of how many of them there were. There are reports that there were herds on the vast Midwestern plains that were 50 miles wide, 20 miles long, and contained approximately 480,000 buffalo. With this fact in mind, it was no wonder that businessmen and market hunters took advantage of the assets of the American bison. In the year 1833 alone, 43,000 buffalo hides were shipped off by the American Fur Company. There were piles of buffalo skulls taller than buildings that would just be left to rot, their bodies only stripped of their hide and tongues. Now, you can only find the American bison in 2 places. One is a national park in Canada, and another is Yellowstone. Now that you've heard some examples of the sins of our past, let's talk about some ways that we're now helping the environment through hunting. The world has seen its wrongdoings and has come to, when it comes to overharvesting, but some have decided to rectify it. They want to make it right. Here are some ways that organizations that are for the express purpose of hunting are now helping the environment and helping the very animals that they deem their prey. First, let's talk about ducks. Ducks Unlimited runs many conservation projects, and they've always had a strong biological standpoint. The science and research tradition continues today with hundreds of studies to address the habitat needs of waterfowl. Though a great deal of work has been done and many important questions have been answered, there is still very much to learn about how all the different kinds of waterfowl respond to different landscapes, habitats, and environmental changes. Ducks Unlimited has been embracing an approach of constant monitoring and evaluation, which allows for continual refinement of its habitat programs. One of the ways that they help is that they replant forests. I know what you're thinking. Forests? What do they have to do with protecting the wetlands? And ducks, too. But forests that flood regularly due to overflowing riverbanks, such as the bottomland forests that you find in the Mississippi Valley, make the ideal wintering habitat for ducks and provide essential breeding and foraging habitat for other wildlife species. The only problem is that 80% of these forests have been cleared for agriculture and other purposes, and the rivers have been tamed with dams and levees. Ducks Unlimited has reforested more than 178,000 acres in the Mississippi Valley, and has worked to restore back water to those forests to mimic historical flooding. That's how Ducks Unlimited has helped the wetlands and the ducks that depend on them. Now, let's talk turkey. The motto of the National Wild Turkey Federation is conserve, hunt, and share. And another famous slogan is save the habitat, save the hunt. Both of those are meaning that they are devoted fully to seeing the preservation of the species by hunters. Any financial contributions that are given to the National Wild Turkey Federation help support their habitat initiatives and activities. Most of them are focused on increasing the carrying capacity, how many turkeys you can have in one plot, but not only improving the critical nesting, and brood habitat, which is where the little chicks reside, but also carefully looking at year-round habitat needs like winter food, water availability, and harvest potential. With these initiatives, NWTF will sustain upland game species and foster the next generation of hunters, hopefully. Now, let's talk about why we need to hunt. Hunting itself is not just for fun, but is beneficial to everyone, both prey and hunter. How the act of hunting is beneficial to animals, you may ask? Well, hunting helps promote new growth and the management of prey populations. Before man came upon this earth, prey animals were maintained by the natural predators, who would kill to eat, and in turn, the predators were maintained by how many prey animals there were. Since man has come on the scene, we've messed up everything. We've killed the predators because we thought they were a danger to us and our livestock. With these predators gone, the prey population would go unchecked, and prey would eventually starve themselves because they'd eaten all of the food at a faster rate than it grows. So it's now our job to take up the role as the predator and to hunt for the good of the ecosystem as a whole. So you may be wondering, it's obvious how man benefits from hunting, but people who don't hunt think that us hunters are just stocking our freezers for excess meat. But the truth is that we supplement meat that we would have bought at the store, the fresh, antibiotic-free meat that we harvest from the wild. Another way that hunting helps man is that it's either that you may deem less or more important depending on the way you look at it, is that hunting since the dawn of time in a way for people to come together and celebrate the wilderness, as well as a rite of passage for the older generations to share their wisdom with the younger. So, in conclusion, while hunting has been a problem in the past, we now in the present have realized our mistakes and pray to be able to preserve the wild for future generations to hunt, and that to remember that hunting is the father of all wildlife conservation. If you take nothing from this speech, remember, irresponsible hunting does hurt the environment, but not as much as a total loss of hunting would. I've been William Matt Garvin, and thank you for listening.